You guys ready to get rolling?
Yeah.
Another show on the road.
I am if you are.
Alrighty,
Yes, sir.
like I said, Debate 1, Season 2, Episode 2, Blake versus Nelly. Should Frank Gore be in the Hall of Fame? Nelly, you got double duty today, so I'm going to let you pick. You want to go first or second here opening?
I'm going to go first to start, if that's okay with everyone.
Alrighty. It's okay
All right.
with me. So your 2 minutes begins now. Open it up.
All right. Frank Gore has had one of the most impressive careers in NFL history. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Played 16 seasons, the league's toughest position. While I commend Frank's Ironman career, I can't help but question his Hall of Fame credentials. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. Gore is third in rushing all time, and that's going to be spearheaded Blake's argument. A historic feat for which he should be commended, but not rewarded a gold jacket. Being top 3 in a statistical category, while impressive, guarantees you nothing. Donnie Edwards and Zach Thomas are 3rd and 4th in tackles and aren't Hall of Famers. Matt Ryan is currently 8th in passing yards and only needs 4,000 more yards to be top 5 by the time he retires. And unless he has a second MVP, he's not going to get in there. You will not find a single year in which Gore led the NFL in any offensive category, including rushing yards. In fact, he was only in the top 5 once in 2006, and he only finished higher in rushing he finished top 9 twice in his 16 years. Although he went to 5 Pro Bowls, Gore was never once voted All-Pro. It would be the only Hall of Fame running back to not have made either first or second team All-Pro in his entire career. In his 16 years, he was never named the league MVP, and he never got a single vote. He's one of 2 backs to play 200 games, which is how he got all his career averages in yards. However, he only averaged 66.4 per game, putting him behind the likes of Willie Parker, Priest Holmes, and Ray Rice. He had 81 rushing touchdowns, only 4 more than Todd Gurley, who hasn't played in almost 2 seasons and was drafted in 2015, and only 6 more than Cam Newton, a quarterback who peaked in his 4th season and has been mediocre since then. I don't want to disparage the name of Frank Gore. He's in the definition of the Hall of Very Good, but not a Hall of Famer. I concede the rest of my time.
Okay, well, first off, I'm going to dispute your fact about the All-Pro. He was second-team All-Pro 2006, his second season. That also ended up being his most productive season with 1,600 yards. But here's the thing. While he was never top 5, and I think that's a very fair argument, he never has been considered the best back in the game while he was playing. However, he's the only back to ever go as long as he has and put up over 1,000 yards as much as he has. He's the okay. Frank Gore has the most seasons with 1,200 yards from scrimmage with 12. There's no active player that's even close to that. That's including all wide receivers, and every other person that's top 7 in that list is in the Hall of Fame. When you look at the top 16 rushers of all time, leading in yards, the only 2 that aren't in the Hall of Fame are Adrian Peterson and Frank Gore. There's no reason the 3rd all-time leading rusher wouldn't also be in that group. The average career length for an NFL athlete is 3 years. Running backs specifically have the shortest career life in the NFL out of all positions, averaging 2.5 years. Frank Gore went for 15, and then 10 of those went for over 1,000 yards. I think that the longevity alone, oh man, someone's on a hog outside. Longevity alone is enough to put him in the Hall of Fame when you consider that he's averaged 4.5 yards throughout his career as well. Statistically, he's one of the best to ever do it, and it is because of his long career. But that's also a huge point that I would love to discuss with you, Nelly. Running backs don't last that long. We see it time and time again. Running backs have come in and been more productive and been top backs in the league, but they're out in 3 more years. Frank Gore stood around, played 7 straight years, 2011 to 2018, starting in and playing all 16 games. No one else has done that, and that's my time.
Appreciate that. He was second team in 06. I misspoke. I'd like to do a 30-second exercise if that's cool with you.
Wait. I didn't get to say light them up. Go ahead and light them up.
Blake, 30 seconds. I'd like 30 seconds of your time, please.
No.
I'm going to give you 10. I'm going to give you 10 names. You tell me if they're better than Frank Gore. Ready?
What? Okay.
I'm going to give you 10 names. You tell me if they're better than Frank Gore.
Okay.
Emmitt Smith.
Emmitt Smith? Yeah.
Yes. Walter Payton.
Yeah.
Barry Sanders.
Ooh. Yeah, probably.
Adrian Peterson.
Yes.
Curtis Martin.
Yes. Nah.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
Debatable. Not
Jerome
sure.
Bettis.
He's in the Hall of Fame, but he didn't play that long. He had a good story. He deserves it for sure.
Okay, last one, Eric Dickerson.
Yeah.
Okay. So, despite being third, we can agree there's at least 4 or 5 in the top 10 behind him that are better players. So just because you're third, we agree he's not the 3rd best running back of all time.
Yeah, no, he's not the 3rd best of all time, but he's still in the Hall of Famer. If you're in the top 20 of best of one position group of all time, you should be in the Hall of Fame. He's also on the NFL 2010's All-Decade team. That's decided by the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So he's already been acknowledged as someone that should be in that class and considered as a Hall of Fame talent.
Well, LaShawn McCoy and Marshawn Lynch are on that list too. Neither of them are Hall of Famers.
Yeah, they're not. But they also
that doesn't guarantee
they also didn't run as long as Frank Gore did. They also didn't have as.
So we'll say the average running back career on average is 5 years. He played 16 seasons. So he played triple the career.
Whoa!
It's 5 seasons.
Where are you getting that?
It's 5 seasons.
I said it in my opening. I literally have it right here.
No, it's 5 seasons.
Average career length for running back is 2.5 years.
For starting running backs, 5 seasons.
Starting running backs?
5 seasons. Yes.
Okay, whatever.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So if you play triple the average career of a running back, a starting running back in the NFL. Post 2012, he was either a borderline bottom tier starter or a backup. Up until that point, his entire prime coincided with 3 running backs winning MVP, in which he put up all of his numbers, which was impressive. He was a great player. I was around in 2011, 2012. He was never considered a Hall of Famer. He added stats on the back end. It's impressive, right?
Are you saying 2012? Yeah, that was only 6 years in his career. Then he went like 5 more years after that, where he also went for 1,000 more. Where he went for 1,000 plus yards
in the prime of his career, right? Where he's putting up the majority of his numbers. He never made a Pro Bowl past that, right? That's the chunk of his career. With 3 running backs, 1 MVP, he was never in that conversation with any of those guys. He only finished top 9 in rushing 2 single times. Yes, he had a 1,600-yard season, but there's a reason he was barely top 5 because a lot of running backs did. Well, he's not impressive in 2005.
It's natural to have a drop off when you're playing double, like twice as long as any other running back to ever do it. Like that's natural. He's still putting up really good stats, even like for his age especially, and he stayed healthy. He wasn't missing games.
Staying healthy,
Hall of Fame. You can't tell the story of 2010 football without talking about Frank Gore.
You absolutely
49ers run game. He has electric with Frank Gore.
Memorable Frank Gore runner game.
What'd you say?
Frank run, or a game from him. Nothing.
Gore?
Shady has the winner game in the snow against the Lions. We got Marshawn Lynch, Beastquake, Adrian Peterson going for 298 against the Chargers. He has none of those games. He's the definition of average for 16 seasons. It's impressive. There's reason.
Well, no, he averaged 4.5 yards. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. That's very much above average.
4.5 yards per carry, 66 yards a game, less than Fast Willie Parker and
for
Ray
15
Rice.
Years.
Right. I'm not discounting the 16 years. That is impressive. But your entire legacy lasts on he played the most amount of years. That doesn't get you into the Hall of Fame.
That's a pretty big legacy.
When you get to the gold jacket, Deion Sanders said it best. It is a guy who there's no debate. The guy who sold tickets just on his name alone. Frank Gore was never that dude at any point in his career. He's a very good running back, a very solid running back who did it for a long time. But there's a reason he's only 3rd in rushing and not top 5 in any other categories. Blake, he has 5 more touchdowns than Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley hasn't played in 2 seasons. It was drafted in 2015, right? So he has all those yards. That's impressive. I'm not taking away from that, but that doesn't build you a Hall of Fame career because you have 1 stat in your name.
I feel like it really does when you're 3rd of all time. I mean, I think we're at a fundamental impasse here. He didn't put up the touchdowns, but that's also like he was on a lot of like shitty teams. He was a serviceable running back. Well, he was beyond serviceable. He was a starting running back for longer than most. I keep going back to the same point because I think it's something that you're not really acknowledging. He didn't get injured ever. Like he wasn't considered top 5, but he's always top 10 in those stats. If you put up over 1,000 yards as a running back,
he was top 9 twice in rushing. That's it. Twice. Top 9 twice. That's what I'm saying. He was very good for a very long time. That's very good. Hall of very good. The Hall of Fame is the best players to ever do it. The most contemporary running back for him would have been 07 with AP, right? AP won a fucking MVP in 2012 and carried Christian Ponder. Frank Gore, I'm telling you, in 2011, 2012 would never have been in this conversation. He just happened to play 8 more seasons of being mediocre. I'll give him credit. I'll give him his flowers. All-time, like, great, like, story and guy, but, like, there's 25 guys I'm naming before Frank Gore. Like, he's not a Hall of Famer.
25?
There are 33 running backs in the modern era since 1950 that are Hall of Famers. He's not a top 30 running back. Add that. And if he gets in, it will be a senior committee 40 years down the line.
All time? Okay. You said he's not a top 30 running back of all time?
No, I don't think. Just he has 1 stat. That's it. Rushing yards. He has not. He's 57th in yards per game. He's 29th in touchdowns. He's in his averages in the top 10. He's 2nd. Right. He has 1 for All Pro and it's 2nd team 1 year. Like he's just a very good player who played for a very long time. That's commendable. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a great, one of the all-time like cool stories, but he's not a Hall of Fame player.
What do you consider a Hall of Fame player? Not Deion Sanders' words. That you have to be considered like the best.
This is a Hall of Fame. If I go into a room,
many people in the Hall of Fame. We know that's not how the Hall of Fame is decided.
I get to 100 football fans. If I put a room and I start naming players, Tom Brady unanimous, Adrian Peterson unanimous, Peyton Manning unanimous, Deion Sanders
Frank
unanimous.
Gore would get at least 7.
Frank Gore's getting discussed for 2 hours, bro.
Of those votes.
He has his yards. He does not have touchdowns. He doesn't have yards per game. He doesn't
That's
have
the most games
statistics.
played by a running back ever.
That's most games being isn't a stat for you though. Just then you
I feel
played
like
in the
it is.
most. Andrew Whitworth
He's
has
the
played in the
Iron
most
Man. He's
games.
a running back.
Andrew
Running backs
Whitworth has
do
played the
not.
most
They
games at
last 2
tackle.
years
No
in the
one.
league at most. He went
So is
7
Andrew
times
Whitworth?
over that.
Is Andrew
And he
Whitworth
was
the
putting
best
up
left
good
tackle?
numbers. He was putting up starting running back numbers. He wasn't top 5, but he's always like above league
The best
average.
left tackle of the decade. Is Andrew
He's the
Whitworth the
best
best
left
left
tackle of
tackle?
the decade? This
Yeah,
decade?
he played the most games. He's the best left tackle. Then that's what I'm saying. A Hall of Fame career isn't one cool stat. Adrian Peterson's behind him in yards. Not any sane person would
Is
say
Adrian
that he's
Peterson
worse
going
than
to go in the Hall of Fame? Yes, because he had a
Absolutely,
2,000
first
yard
ballot,
season.
lock it in.
So if the top
Lock it in.
16 rushers are on the Hall of Fame, why is Frank Gore the only one that would be excluded from that? Just because he was averaging 66 yards a game?
Because his sole
He did
part
find
of
the end zone?
Here's what Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson has an MVP. He has the most yards in a game. He has multiple seasons where he led the league in both rushing and rushing touchdowns. Frank Gore's entire argument for the Hall of Fame, which is the best players in NFL history, is he's third in yards. Zach Thomas is fourth in tackles. He's not getting in. Just because you're top 5 in a category does not mean you get in. It's more, if he
He
legendary
also has
like
the most seasons, 1,200 yards from scrimmage.
Darren Sproles leads everyone all time in scrimmage yards. No one gives a shit about scrimmage yards. Darren Sproles is number 1. No one gives a shit. It's not a real
Darren
stat.
Sproles is number 1 in most.
We're talking running backs running the ball. He has third yards. That's credit. Great player. The definition of Hall of very good. He has one stat in his name. It's yards. That's it. Yards. And he was second All-Pro in 2006. And he ran for a very long time. That is commendable. He tore both his ACLs in Miami and kept playing for 16 years. Literally one all-time great story. But a Hall of Famer is an Adrian Peterson. Is a Damian Thomas. Guys from his era.
Getting a little
Frank Gore
robot
was never
voice
in that
there.
conversation. I remember those games.
You were a little robotic there. Say that point again.
Yeah, run that back.
I said if you compare him to his contemporaries, which would be LaDainian Tomlinson and AP, who are both MVPs, who both led the league in rushing yards and touchdowns multiple times, and who were the argument for the best players in the league, let alone running backs, Gore was never in any of those conversations. He wasn't even in the running back guy. He didn't have a peak. He had a very long valley. It's very impressive. He's the definition of Hall of very good. It's not a slight to Frank Gore. He had an amazing career. But to me, a Hall of Fame running back is you see that guy twice a year scheduled on your schedule, and you're freaking out. You have to pay Adrian Peterson, you're shitting your bricks. Frank Gore was never that guy. He's a very good player. That's my argument.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think we have very fundamental differences and ideas of like what should be in the Hall of Fame. I think you need to look at what tells the story of football. Like he won 5 years of winning the Pro Bowl. And it's like you're comparing him to the all-time greats, and we know he's not an all-time great, but he's in the Hall.
Jalen Hurts made the Pro Bowl this year. Pro Bowl's a joke. Pro Bowl's not a real stat. Pro Bowl's a joke.
Okay, nah, I'll concede that. I don't really care about that much. I do care about him just running for over 1,000 yards more than anyone else has in the season. 16,000 career yards. I am in a corner. I think Walmer said it best. I don't really have any other argument except he's the Iron Man. Like he went for 15 years. He was not considered the best top 5, but no one else has done, and no one ever will do what Frank Gore has done. Like we keep saying it's commendable, but it's extremely commendable when you look at the position group he's in.
Right, but Matt Ryan is going to be 5th in passing within 1 to 2 years and could even get ahead of Drew Brees and Peyton Manning. He might be 3rd. He is not the 3rd best quarterback, and I wouldn't argue he's not even a Hall of Famer, assuming he doesn't win another MVP or Super Bowl.
That's a whole different argument.
I know, but that's what I'm saying to you. Just because his whole argument hinges on being 3rd in rushing. That's all he has, which is impressive, but that's it. You're a Hall of Famer. There's a way higher bar than 100%. Literally the perfect picture of the Hall of Very Good to me is Frank Gore. 100%. He just wasn't elite at any. If he had like a big run in a Super Bowl, which he was in, he made playoffs in Super Bowl multiple times, multiple playoff appearances. He never had a Beastquake. He never had a Shady McCoy in the winter time.
Well, he had a 260. He has the most rushing yards in the game for the 49ers. He had a 212 yard game in 2006.
That's impressive. Garrison Hurst has more yards than him in a game.
He has the most rushing yards in a 3-game span.
I'm saying he has cool moments, but he lacks a signature moment, a signature season. He doesn't have any MVP votes. He has 1 second team. Bettis a few years ago got shit when he made it. He had 5 first-team All-Pros and was 5th in rushing. Gore is a very good story, and maybe is a 1% chance on the senior committee 30 years from now. They're like, well, Frank Gore's 3rd in rushing. But for any reasonable look at it, he's just not in. He has one argument, which is yards. Cool.
Well, his yards
all he has
is him putting up those yards for 8+ years in a row, which no one else has or ever will do. He's a freak. Yeah. He's the Iron Man. You try to glance over and say, yeah, very cool story. That's awesome. But that's an amazing story. That's something that not many people do. Adrian Peterson came back from the ACL and ran for 2,000 yards. We're already acknowledging that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Frank Gore came from 2 torn ACLs in college and was still a 3rd-round pick. He was a great talent, and he maintained that for 15 years. He did exactly what he was supposed to do as a running back. he was probably more balanced. He wasn't in that run-heavy offense that gave him those that really gave him those glamorous touchdown stats. I wasn't watching when I was 8 years old, so I don't know why he wasn't in the end zone more. But all I do know is that he's extremely reliable. And if you can get 4 yards of carry every single time, then you're going to win a lot of games.
The only issue is there's 33 running backs in the past 75 years that have made the Hall of Fame. So it's like one or two a generation. So let's say the mid-2000s.
So why would we not pick Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson? Who else would you pick?
He's not in over LaDainian Tomlinson, bro.
In this active time. LaDainian Tomlinson's in the Hall of Fame.
Two guys of each era. They're of the same era. First of all, the Frank Gores gets skewed because he's 39 years old and just retired. So he should have retired like any other running back.
That's extremely impressive. Why is that skewed?
I'm not saying you're taking away impressive in Hall of Fame. I'm not saying it's not impressive. I'm saying of the mid-2000s running back, the class he was drafted, which 05, Peterson was 07, LT was 01. They're the same contemporaries. It's AP and LT of the 2000s. No one would argue differently. 2010s, LaShawn McCoy was better. Marshawn Lynch was better. Adrian Peterson was better. Like, he's just not on any of those lists. He's not that guy. Just, it is what it is. He's a Hall of very good player. He has one stat. I rushed for 16,000 yards. Very good job, Frank Gore. I'm proud of you. Zach Thomas has way more tackles than Ray Lewis and Urlacher. He's not making the Hall of Fame.
2 minutes left till we close, guys.
Just because you're his whole argument hinges on one stat. And if he sneakily had like 120 touchdowns and was like fourth in touchdowns, he's 29th in touchdowns. He's 59th in yards per game. Like, he has one stat. It's impressive, but it's just longevity. Longevity does not.
The people like above him and behind him that have those same stats are in the Hall of Fame.
For one stat, yes. He has one Hall of Fame.
Touchdowns too. There's people behind him that are in the Hall of Fame. Let me pull that up real quick.
One Hall of Fame worthy stat.
What?
One Hall of Fame worthy stat. That's all he has is yards. He's not Hall of Fame worthy by touchdowns, not Hall of Fame worthy by yards per game. He has no sort of Hall of Fame or playoff type moments, which many running backs of his era do in fact have. In terms of his scrimmage and receiving yards, he played 16 fucking seasons. He should be by far the most in receiving and scrimmage yards, even if he was mediocre. He had stone brick hands with the Niners.
He's third all time in that.
Yeah, but and he played for 16 seasons. That's what I'm saying. He was average to very good for 16 seasons. Commendable. But he was not a Hall of Fame player. Is a guy that you look at like you're terrified of that dude. That dude's a 98 or 99 in Madden. That is a franchise player. Frank Gore was just a guy for 16 years, where he was very good at his peak. At his peak, he was a very good player. He was never elite. You finished top 9 twice. I'm not calling you an elite running back. You're not an Adrian Peterson. You're not a LaDainian Tomlinson. You're not even a Shady McCoy or Marshawn Lynch in their primes. He's not better than either of them in their primes. He has longevity, which is impressive, but does not make you a Hall of Famer.
So that's where we're just going to have to strongly disagree. I mean, we're hitting our time limit, and I don't really have much to say for my closing argument, except, let's just wrap this up.
I have a closing if you don't mind.
No, yeah, for sure.
Close it up, Nelly. You were first for closer anyways.
Yeah.
Do you want to close, Blake?
Blake was first for close, actually. Blake, you're first if you have one.
I've said the same thing again and again. I'll concede that. Nelly can go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay. While Gore's seasons played are undoubtedly impressive, that is not a statistical category to be considered for the Hall of Fame. Deion Sanders, the greatest DB in the history of the sport, had a great quote and won a Hall of Famer is, quote, "He had to have a profound impact on the game, worth of the price of admission himself alone. When his name comes up, there is not a shadow of a doubt within the room that he deserves a bust in Canton." Frank Gore might have the most fitting nickname in NFL history, the Inconvenient Truth. Despite being third all-time in rushing, he is not a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Fame is like making it into a prestigious university. A perfect SAT score and being your valedictorian of your small high school just does not cut it. When you get to those levels, everyone is great and everyone has extracurriculars and accolades. Longevity for longevity's sake is not an accolade. It must be accompanied by other accomplishments. He has no memorable runs, no memorable playoff moments, and frankly, since 2012, he's been a borderline backup or bottom-end starter, just chugging along. Frank has served his time well, a good company man who deserves his retirement watch after a long, great career. But that gold jacket is exclusive for the best of the best. Frank was never elite, never top 5 in his position. In his prime, 3 running backs won an MVP, something that might not ever even happen again. He played in the golden era of running backs, and with the nature of the game changing to a passing league, he has all but cemented his slot in the rushing yards all-time list. But the inconvenient truth is that list is the only list he will ever belong on. No fan will ever argue him among the best runners to ever play the game, and he will be a trivia question stumper in 50 years when it comes to top 5 all-time rushing yards leaders. I concede my time.
All righty. And David just hit us with the voting link. If you've been with us before, you know how voting works here. Just click that link. You can also see the live results. I'm going to go click on that now. Keep track of that. And we'll find out who wins here in a sec. Good debate, guys. Good work.
Appreciate it. Good job, Blake.
Right now we're at 5 votes, 60-40 Nelly.
Yeah. Man, I need to not take the favorite anymore. I came in way too confident. Ugh. Damn.
That's what I said.
Like literally,
Nelly had some really good points there.
He did.
And
I mean, it's hard to argue. Longevity is like the big thing around Frank Gore, and that's really all he does
The
have.
hard thing
And I think
about
that is worth Hall of
longevity
Fame.
is it's not quantifiable within a stat other than games played. You know what I mean?
his problem is his touchdowns. That's it. He only has 5 more touchdowns than Todd Gurley. Like, that's insane to me. Like, he should at least have 100. If he had 100 touchdowns, he's just 29th in touchdowns. Because I would give him another top 15 stat. He'd have it. But if he's only top 5 in one stat, like, dude, they're just not getting in.
Fair enough.
Running backs going to have issues going forward, too. I don't know. Gore is the man, dude. He tore both his ACLs at Miami. Dude's a fucking stud. All time. Like, that's courageous as fuck, the fact that he kept playing, too.
Voting has completely slowed, and it looks like Nelly took it 75% to 25%.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it.
We're bringing in Roman now. Roman's debating Nelly on the worst franchise in the last decade. That'll be from 2012 to now for those of us that can't count.
Which hurts my soul.
We're going off 2012, not 2010.
2012.
It's 2022,
That's
bro. What are we
a
talking
decade.
My bad.
Roman 0-2 for season 2, 1-5 all time. Nelly with that shiny new 1-0 on season 2 and just got to 500 all time, 3-3. Don't sound the alarm now.
Uh-oh.
Roman, I'll let you pick since you did double duty last week. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first so I can go second later. All right.
Like I said, worst franchise in the last decade. Here we go, Roman. Open this baby up.
All right. Now, if we go off of worst franchise in the last decade, so what I chose for this, if we're being honest, the obvious choice is the New York Jets. New York Jets this entire decade from 2012 to 2021 to 2022, the most recent season, 2021, they have not made the playoffs. Best they got was second in their division, and they still couldn't make the playoffs. They were 10-6 and still didn't make the playoffs that year. Every single year they haven't made the playoffs since 2010. So 2012 to 2021, they're definitely not going to make the playoffs. They only had 2 years where they had 8 wins or more. 1 year where they were 7-9, and the rest of them they won 5-6 games. They couldn't do much. Their best quarterback in that time was arguably either Geno Smith and Ryan Fitzpatrick, which I know people love Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he's not a great starter. He's a good backup journeyman, not a great starter. You've seen that from all the teams that he's played with. They haven't really had an outstanding guy. They've signed a decent amount of guys who they wasted some careers. They wasted the career of Darrelle Revis. They wasted the end of Brandon Marshall, the end of Eric Decker. I think they had Julius Thomas at one point too. They never really had a good run game. Their defense has always been pretty terrible. They wasted the career of DeBrickashaw Ferguson as well. They just have not been that good. And in general, they've just been a terrible team and terribly ran. Woody Allen should get rid of that team. And also, they've had no good coaching. Their best coach was probably Todd Bowles, and Todd Bowles was not that good.
30 seconds.
All right, I'm good.
I just like for the people taking track, it's Woody Johnson, not Woody Allen. No Andy Hall.
My bad. Woody Johnson.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just fucking with you because it Woody Allen. The worst franchise of the past decade. I mean, it's very clearly the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go by a bunch of different metrics because any flavor you want, they got it. How about the least amount of wins? Wouldn't that be the worst franchise? Jacksonville has the least amount of wins. What about the quarterbacks that they've played since 2012? Blaine Gabbert, Chad Henne, Mike Glennon, Nick Foles, Cody Kessler. List so bad we think Gardner Minshew and Blake Bortles aren't that bad still. Yikes. Head coaches we tried it out: Mike Mularkey, Gus Bradley, Doug Marrone, and a half season of the worst coach of all time in Urban Meyer. But, Roman's argument probably going to hinge about 2017, guys. They made it to the AFC Championship game and took Tom Brady deeper into the fourth quarter. Listen, that's the number one reason why they're the worst franchise. Because they had a dynasty potentially, and they threw it down to the toilet. They had guys under 25, Jalen Ramsey, Miles Jack, Yannick Ngakoue, and they either traded them all or completely mismanaged them. The Jags handled that dynasty and pissed it all away in less than one season. We've seen the blueprint for it. You replace Bortles like the Rams did this year with Goff, and you have a contender going forward. It's nice to live in Florida and in Jacksonville. It's not a shitty place to be. It's an easy team to be an awful year in, year out, but it is hard to blow up the best young roster in football, which makes you the worst franchise in the NFL. The Jets' only argument is that they hired Adam Gase and drafted Sam Darnold. but both were universally applauded at the time. Gase being the OC for the Denver team that broke all the records in 2013, and Darnold being a stud out of USC. And if also you want to break it down by money, the Jets are worth much more, even including being a New York team, even though they play New Jersey, over $1.5 billion more as a franchise. So I'm ready to get into it if you guys are.
Cool, Kachu. Let's light them up, boys. Get to arguing.
All right, so you're telling me that the best quarterback for the Jets, Mark Sanchez or Geno Smith, one of those two, or Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know which one we want to
First
say.
of all,
but you're telling me they're better than Blake Bortles.
We're talking 2012, so that's no Mark Sanchez. And if it was, give the man his flowers.
It was the very end of
two AFC championship games. Give my man his flowers. First of all, beat Tom Brady and Joe Flacco. Anyways, we're talking 2012 on. So Blaine Gabbert is dog shit. Has 5 career wins. He's been in the league 10 seasons. Chad Henne's been nothing more than a backup. Mike Glennon might be the worst quarterback that's ever played. Nick Foles, stud. We're not going to talk about Nick Foles. He's God. But by the time he got to Jacksonville, he's washed. Cody Kessler's got 19 concussions in 3 years. I don't know how he's still alive, let alone playing football. Okay, so all these quarterbacks are terrible.
I mean, if we go for this, you want to look at the talent. You want to look at the talent of guys that they've had. They've had better guys. They've had Allen Robinson better than any wide receiver that the Jets have had. Really.
Correct. I agree with you.
They've had Jalen Ramsey, who arguably is better than Revis. They had
no. You can say
arguably.
Darrelle Revis is the second best corner that's ever left. Now stop it. Jalen Ramsey's good. Next.
Yeah,
we're not debating that.
He's one of the top. He's the top corner in the league right now. He's been the top corner for a while. Okay. He's very good. They had Calais Campbell, who they wasted. They had Miles Jack, wasted. Joe Schobert, wasted.
Don't forget Yannick Ngakoue, too.
Yannick Ngakoue, wasted. Tevin Smith, wasted. They haven't been able to draft good either.
Leonard Fournette.
The Jets have been even worse than that. The Jets have drafted even worse. They've had a lot better.
That's what makes the Jaguars worse, though. They had all those good players and then ruined a dynasty.
Yeah, but they also made it in the playoffs. The Jets didn't do that.
Explain this to you. The Jaguars over the past 10 seasons have the worst record in football, and they won 14 games in 2017.
Do the math. They have the worst record in football.
They had a 14-win season, and they had the worst record.
The Jets had one winning season. One. And they were
consistently mediocre
points almost every year except for that 1 year.
They were consistently mediocre. They had a decent stretch with Todd Bowles. They were excited about. Listen, there's going to be revisionist history. Adam Gase was viewed as a young upcoming mind, like a Sean McVay.
No. This was Adam Gase after he was with the Miami.
Right, but they blamed that on Tannehill being dog shit. They
also blamed it on Adam Gase, which people understood, and people realized Adam Gase sucked.
Got Adam Gase the job? It was Peyton Manning. Okay, thank you. Sam Darnold was picked number 3, the second quarterback, and one of the best quarterbacks.
I never liked the Sam Darnold pick. I knew Josh Allen was a better quarterback.
They made good decisions. Woody Johnson is a solid owner insofar as he doesn't get in anyone's way in terms of football.
Yeah, you want to know?
Shad Khan is the worst owner in sports.
You want to know who's probably better? You want to know who's better? Who's drafted about the same way, and people thought the exact same of him? Blake Bortles.
Never highly reviewed. All they had to do was get rid of Blake Bortles, and that 2017 team could have been a solid contender for the next 5 seasons.
That 2017 team with Blake Bortles was good. Blake Bortles had probably his best year of his career that year, if we want to look at it.
The Jets were bad to mediocre in the 2010s, but they had an okay stretch with Todd Bowles. They went. It wasn't even an okay stretch. They were 10-6 1 year, didn't make the playoffs, and then they lost. And then they went 7-9 as well.
No, they weren't 7-9. That was with Adam Gase. That was the first year of Adam Gase. They had the second worst offense in the league.
What year is that? That
is 2020. That is 2019 with Adam Gase.
Which counts for the past 10 years. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Okay.
They had the worst. Yeah, I'm saying the same thing with Jacksonville. They almost had the exact same thing. It's just that they had one less win.
Over a 10-year period, they won 14 games in a year and still had the least amount of wins.
The Jags were the fifth best.
For 9 years, they were the worst team in football. 1 year, they were the second best team in football. They should have beat the Patriots, should have lost in the Super Bowl, right? What they proceeded to do was dismantle the team and go even worse, and then hire Urban Meyer 2 years later after the fall of the class of the team.
You're going to tell me that, okay, I understand Urban Meyer wasn't a good coach, but you're going to tell me that Urban Meyer and not even a full season screwed up a team more than Adam Gase did?
Yes.
Adam Gase screwed up that team so bad that Robert Saleh literally went to a situation that everyone thought he was going to go 0-16.
No, Urban Meyer's the worst coach in NFL history. We can get deep in the weeds of that. Let's go over the picks of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got Blaine Gabbert, bust. Justin Blackman, bust. Luke Jokel, bust. Blake Bortles, bust. Dante Fowler, RIP, still you're a bust. Jalen Ramsey, stud. You decided to trade him. Leonard Fournette, bust. Taven Bryan, bust. Josh Allen, great pick. Give you that. CJ Henderson, all right.
Josh Allen. They didn't pick Josh Allen. They didn't pick Josh Allen. Josh Allen, the other
Fucking
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, bud. We're locked in.
There's
Listen,
multiple Josh Allens.
Over a decade period, and we're not going to Trevor's in or out. We're not going to talk about him because he can go either way at this point. You have two great players. You decided to trade one for God knows whatever reason at the age of 25 years old.
Do you want me to go over the Jets draft picks that they have since 2012? They had Quentin Coples, who sucked. 2013, they had D. Milner, who also sucked very bad.
Right.
2014, my bad. They picked later in the draft. They picked Calvin Pryor, who also sucked.
Pretty good at first, but he was
he was pretty good for like a year.
He had a good rookie year.
Yeah, good rookie year. Didn't do anything after that. That's how most of your guys are. Leonard Williams, who was decent, and then he got traded.
Great player. Got a second
great
contract.
Player. I don't know about that. I don't know about great player. And then the next year, they picked Darren Lee. Darren Lee was never really that good. He was serviceable, never that good. More bust. The next year, Jamal Adams traded him first year because Jamal Adams knew what was going on and he didn't want to play for the fucking Jets because everyone knows the Jets fucking suck. The next year, they picked Sam Darnold third overall. The same draft as Baker, Josh Allen,
That's revisionist history. That was a great pick at the time. No one
understand that, but
the only ones that got shit was taking Baker 1, and some people got Barkley at 2 for being a running back. Everyone loves the Darnold pick at 3, so that's revisionist.
I understand that. The next year they picked Quentin Williams, first good guy that they picked. The first good guy that they picked, really, other than Leonard Williams before they traded him. Jamal Adams, go up to you. Mekhi Becton.
You understand they traded a box safety that plays more like a D end for 2 first-round picks, so one that ended up being a top 10 pick. How is that the worst organization in football? The Jamal Adams trade alone nullifies your pick completely.
Okay, I understand. That is the most Jamal Adams trade might have been good, but who did they draft? Who did they draft? Jamal Adams trade? Not many.
Upcoming this season.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter though.
It doesn't matter. They could pick me.
It doesn't matter. They could still draft a. They could still draft a good.
It doesn't matter who they get. They got rid of Jamal Adams is the highest paid defensive back in the league.
Okay,
and he's not
I understand
good.
that.
So they got off of that
I
contract
understand that.
and got 2 first round. That alone nullifies your argument. Listen, man, the only thing you have is 2017. It makes it worse because they had a good team and completely ruined it.
I understand that. But if we're going off of this, even what people are saying in the chat, the Jets, not a good pick until like the Jamal Adams pick. I mean, maybe you can say Leonard Williams. I don't like Leonard Williams.
Leonard Williams is a stud.
He's okay. Yeah, he's a run stopper, but he's supposed to be a D end. D ends aren't supposed to be run stoppers mainly. They're supposed to be guys who can get to the ball.
4-3 tackle. He's not going to get a crazy amount of sacks. You're hating. He's not a stat guy.
Okay, yes.
Which we're backing up here. He's a good stud.
I understand, yeah. But the Jaguars have had more guys who are solid on their team. They just haven't been able to put it together because of coaching. The Jets.
No. It hasn't been that they didn't get to put it together. They threw him apart and ripped.
I know they threw him apart.
We're talking about the worst franchise.
I'm saying before that they weren't able to put them together because of the coaching.
What makes you the worst franchise?
The Jets in general, all of the whole situation with the Jets is just trash. Do we want to look at 2020 where Frank Gore, the guy you were talking about earlier, was their leading rusher with like 400 yards?
The Jets aren't terrible. They're an awful franchise.
No,
but
they are.
Jamal Adams trade alone. You're talking about a franchise. Shad Khan is the worst owner in football.
One trade of a franchise nullifies the entire thing. You can say the exact same thing about You can say the exact same thing about the Jaguars. One year nullifies that entire thing because they made it to the playoffs and an NFC championship at that. They should have made it to the Super Bowl, honest. That year they should have made it to the Super Bowl. If they would have made it to the Super Bowl, if they made it to the Super Bowl, this wouldn't even be an argument. But you're making an argument just because they didn't win that and then they trade away guys. But the Jets didn't even make the playoffs any year.
You keep saying, they drafted Ramsey. They had Ngakoue. They had Calais Campbell. That is my point, Roman. They were the worst. Listen to me. No, you've been talking. They were the worst franchise this decade. And not only that, they had a Super Bowl almost caliber winning team and then threw it all away.
Okay.
Drafted Jalen Ramsey. Then they traded Jalen Ramsey, which makes it way worse. They had a great team and they threw it away.
Wanted to be traded.
Doesn't mean you trade him. He wanted to be traded because that team fell apart, and Tom Coughlin was an asshole. He said, if you're 5 minutes too early, you're 5 minutes too late. Or I think you're 5 years too many being in this fucking league.
Tom Coughlin wasn't the coach that year.
He ran the whole team. Go look at it. That's revisionist history. Doug Marrone was one of his fucking lackeys. He was the head of football operations, and he was an asshole. That's why every player talked shit on him and left Jacksonville.
Why did the Giants like him? In
In the 2000s, and you were allowed to be an asshole at the time. No one takes deals with that shit anymore. Go ask Strahan and Tiki Barber. They'll say, yeah, he was a dickhead, but we won games. Yeah, players don't deal with that shit anymore. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole.
You want to know also why the guys in Jacksonville got traded is because most of the guys left because they wanted to leave, strictly because they didn't like Tom Coughlin. I guess you can say that, and that whole situation. But the reason with that is that, I mean, that's all Tom Coughlin's fault. I guess you can say that's on the franchise. But other than that, what did the Jets have? Tell me, what did the Jets have?
The Jets have a young quarterback who potentially could be. They have Robert Saleh, who's a great coach. Joe Douglas is a great
quarterback. The Jags also have a young quarterback that could be good.
Let's cancel those two out then. That's even. It could go either way. Fine. Who's the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars? You know who he is?
GM?
It's Trent Baalke. You know that name if you're a big football head. You know that he ruined the Niners dynasty and the reason that Jim Harbaugh coaches at Michigan. He's going to ruin this team with Doug Peterson as well. Meanwhile, the Jets have Joe Douglas, who was smart enough to realize that not only was Jamal Adams not a good player, he was on a terrible contract, and you get 2 first-round picks for that guy.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying to you. The Jets were just bad for the 2010s. I'm not saying they were good. They were fucking dog shit. But the Jaguars were worse.
They were more dog shit than the Jaguars.
They lost. They won more games. What are you talking about? Give me advanced stats by points per game or some other. They won more games.
Just because you win more games doesn't mean you're a better franchise. Doesn't mean you're a better team or a better franchise.
I know. I didn't say that. I'm saying to you is the Jags won less games and also made it to an AFC championship, which they then decided to dismantle completely rather than just replacing Blake Bortles, which was the only hole in the team. They let Allen Robinson walk. They let Jalen Ramsey for a trade. Ngakoue fucking withered away. Miles Jack eventually left to Pittsburgh this year. Like, they just complete mismanagement. Shad Khan is the worst owner of football, maybe all of North American sports. You hire Urban Meyer, let him. Tim Tebow hadn't played for a decade. We let him play tight end for a training camp? That was the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, it's just an incompetent organization.
Tim Tebow was playing tight end for the Jets, so you're wrong.
He was more of a punt protector, if anything. But that was at least 10 years ago when he was a good
tight end on the team.
Yeah, of what year, Roman? When Roman, he was still in the league.
Yes, and he was.
We brought him out of retirement.
He was at his worst point in the league.
So what's worse of a Tim Tebow? I'm not going to get stuck in the weeds here. 5 years into his career, Tebow, or 10 years off of football playing minor league for the fucking Mets, Roman? Relax. There's a reason he even with Urban Meyer in his corner, he couldn't make the fucking team. I'm telling you that the Jaguars were not only bad, which is your argument for the Jets, they drafted worse than the Jets. They have worse management than the Jets.
I don't know if I can say that. I don't know if I can say they drafted worse because they both drafted very bad.
Woody Johnson isn't a bad owner. He's just a hands-off owner. So if you're GM and coaches suck.
Also, there are multiple times where the team was better, where the Jaguars should have been better than their record. They were top 15 in their scoring, but their defense just sucked. Like
the Chargers were first in defense and offense when you didn't make the playoffs. None of that shit matters.
I know. I'm just saying with that, like, it doesn't help because their teams, the one year that the Jets actually were good at offense was the one year that they almost made the playoffs and lost to the fucking Bills.
But see,
2 minutes here.
You at least have some like middling years with Gase and Bowles. There's a 4-year stretch.
I don't know if I would say middling years with Gase. Bowles, you have 1 year. Bowles, you have 1 year. Gase, 7-9 is nothing. And 7-9, that was a bad thing.
Also, middling year.
Also, 7-9 is a bad thing for them though, because it just made it worse for them in drafting. The Jags at least when they were bad, they had like decent draft.
Right, that's worse. On my point is, I'm telling you, they were the worst franchise of the 2010s. They lost the most games. Then they had a competent team. They had the best young team in the league.
Yeah.
Should have beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, and then proceeded to completely fuck it up and get rid of every player.
Also,
that makes you a bad franchise.
Another question I have for you.
Go for it.
Do you not realize how good Blake Bortles was? Good. He was a good quarterback. I don't know why you think he's bad.
He had a good season. He's not a good quarterback.
He had multiple good seasons.
No, he didn't.
Yes, in 2015, 30,
he's the garbage king. No, he's garbage stats king.
35-18 with over 4,000 yards.
Blake Bortles is 30 years old. What team is he on?
Okay, Blake Bortles is 30 years old. He's on the Packers right now.
Played on in the past 4 years. He's been a journeyman backup. He had a good season.
Okay, yes. If we go for that, you want to know who's had even worse journeyman season? Who's been even worse? Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, fucking Ryan Fitzpatrick. I guess you can say.
Good.
I know people like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I don't think he's that great of a quarterback.
Fitzpatrick is better than any quarterback that has played for the Jaguars since David.
That is not true. That is not true.
As a quarterback,
not true.
You're out of your fucking mind. Listen to me. The Jets have just always in the 2010s were either bad or mediocre. Okay, the Jaguars were complete dog shit, the bottom of the basement, and had one good year.
Bad or mediocre is worse than just being bottom of the basement. Because bottom of the basement, you at least have some hope that you're going to draft good. Bad or mediocre means that you're going to be middle of the draft or late like top 10, and you're not going to get a good player because all the best players have been drafted. That's the problem. The Jets have had that every single year, and they didn't realize that they needed, and they didn't realize the issues that they had.
But
All right. Nope. Swallow that thought. Your time is up. Spirited debate, guys. I really don't remember who opened here. Who opened?
I opened. Nelly, you're up.
All right, Nelly, you are first for closer. You guys really did give it. You lit it up. Good work. Nelly, close this bad boy.
Thank you. To me, we're talking about the worst franchise, which is your team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go. Like I said, I don't want to reiterate too many points, but they won the least amount of games. At the end of the day, football is about winning games. So they did the least amount of that. Okay. You can't bring up the 2017 team as a negative against me because it's a positive for me. They had a great team. The Jets were just mediocre with 8-8, 7-9 back-to-back seasons with two different coaches, right? They had an all-time great in terms of young players on a young team and decided to throw it all away. A bad franchise is incompetent. A bad franchise can't build upon winning. A bad franchise can't induce and make culture. You hired Coughlin, who was carried by Eli Manning and the Giants in the early 2000s and was an absolute asshole, to lead your players in 2018. Go look at what any of the players have said post them. He's the reason it fell apart. Shad Khan, at the end of the day, your franchise comes down to your owner. Shad Khan is the worst owner in sports. He hires the wrong people constantly. He constantly meddles, doesn't let the football people do their jobs. Woody Johnson might not be a great owner, but he lets the football people do their job. You'll never see him in the headlines. He went and fucked off to Ireland for 4 years. He doesn't do press conferences. He lets them do their job. Shad Khan is the opposite and was a meddler. The Jacksonville Jaguars won the least amount of games. They threw away a potential dynasty. They've drafted just as bad, if not worse than them. They've charted off the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. And it's so bad we think Gardner Minshew's still okay. I'm an Eagles fan. He's an okay quarterback at best. That's their best guy this past decade. That alone, at the most important position in football, that's your best guy in a decade. A sixth-round pick from Washington State, who I do love, admittedly, but that's a bad sign for your team. So I'll cede the rest of my time to Roman.
All right, Roman, 2 minutes closing. It's up.
All right. So as he was saying, yeah, they had a potential dynasty. What did the Jets have? Not a potential dynasty. They never had that. Other than, before the decade, they may have had that, but from 2012 to 2020, they did not have that. The Jaguars had that. Yes, they threw it away. But still, they had that, which is better than anything the Jets can say. They made the playoffs, better than anything the Jets can say. I understand that they had a worse record overall the entire decade, but worse record overall isn't everything, because you can make the playoffs and still have a worse record overall. Like the Lions have a terrible record throughout the decade. They made the playoffs a couple times. If we go off of this, and we go off of how they are, at least if you're a bad team, if you're like one of the worst teams in the league, which they were some years. You have good draft position. The Jets never had that great draft position. The best they drafted was third, which was I think twice, and that was in the most recent seasons when they realized that the rebuild really needed to go into go mode, and they actually tanked as hard as possible. Their best pick out of all their picks that they had in the past decade was probably Quentin Williams, and that was just a couple years, and that was just like 2-3 years ago. Jamal Adams wasn't good. Jamal Adams wasn't really that good on the Jets, and he hasn't been good for the Seahawks at all. Every single other guy that they drafted, other than maybe Mekhi Becton, have been trash and been bust. Easy bust. The Jets have never been able to draft. They've, other than maybe like 1 or 2 years when they drafted Revis back in the 2000s, they were never able to draft. They never had great coaching. Their best coach is probably Todd Bowles when he won 10 games. Other than that, their best season 7-9 with a terrible Adam Gase. And everyone knew that team shouldn't have won 7-9 games. They got lucky most of their games. Just because you win games doesn't mean that your team is better. Like there are some teams that are a lot better than other teams, but they lose more games strictly because of injuries and other issues. The Jets
That's your time, Roman. Cut you off before you start that next thought there.
All right.
All righty. David?
Great sparring, man. Good job.
Yeah, that was
better
really
every time,
good,
bro.
You guys went
Seriously.
back and forth. You really did. Can we get that link, David? Thank you for doing the links, David. Just posted that in the chat. Thanks for doing that today, because I don't know how to work that website.
I know a lot of Jets fans, and it makes it even more annoying. And it makes it even more annoying trying to have them say that the Jets are a decent franchise. We all hate the Jets.
I don't really hate the Jets. I'm going to level with you.
Also, the one thing that I had to say, the argument that you put about the franchise being worth more, it's mainly because they have the New York name.
No, I mentioned that. They're worth $1.5 billion.
I know.
$1 billion, and the valuation is being in New York, so it's still $500 million more.
I know.
Great job, dude.
Right.
Seriously.
So with
They're getting
10
better
votes
every
in, Nelly has 80%. I think I'm going to call it there.
Oh, how is it that far off?
Keep my record out your fucking mouth. I'm coming for everyone.
Nelly
I'm coming
is
for
coming
you.
out with the fire this season.
Here's my fifth good loss. My fifth good loss out of 6 of them.
You're telling I'm out. That's enough talking for me.
5th good loss.
Nelly and I said we were going to debate each other soon, and I don't know if I still want to do that.
Flem, just put him through the mud again.
Yeah.
You got to put him through more mud than he put me through.
Good work. I'll talk to you later on Cool Him Down.
All right. I am ashamed of myself.
You did good. Sometimes you just can't win them all. Nelly was an animal today. He clearly did his homework. So our third debate and final debate of the day. It's a baseball debate. It is who's going to win the NL MVP. This is between armchair host, get him in here as a speaker, and Lily Shu, who, as you may know, 1-0 this season, 7-0 all-time record. Armchair, this is his season 2 debut, and he is 2-3 all-time. Invite Lily on here. Armchair, how's it going?
I am beat, and I'm going to do what I can to bring some sort of spice to this debate. I don't think Lily and I are going to start, Will Smithing this debate, but,
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I have completely lost my voice, so I don't think I can bring that to the debate. So, I'll make it work.
Game on yesterday. I watched a baseball game, so I'm locked in for this debate. I'm ready to
Let's go.
All right. It's who will win the NL MVP. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have Lily go first because I feel like it. And let's just get right into it.
Wait, no decisions?
Right 2 minutes. Nope, no decisions. Just going to roll.
Okay, I got to go last then, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All righty, 2 minutes. Let's get it.
All right. So, today, something's happening outside my window. Okay, regardless. So today I am going to be arguing for the case of the NL MVP. This is the first part 2 on Light 'em Up. We argued AL MVP last week, or at least I did. And this is where I would like to say, first of all, please do not let my quality of voice factor into your decision today. Listen to the quality of my statements instead. I'm going to be arguing for the new Atlanta Brave first baseman, Matt Olson. Matt Olson has consistently been in voting for MVPs throughout the past few years, and has always been noted as a really quality player. He's been playing for a terrible team, the Oakland A's, who are essentially just a failing franchise and team as a whole that have not done anything looking to win. Regardless of that, he has stood out, and he has shown that he is a good player. He's a great defender, an amazing bat, and is always there to boost his team and to provide that X factor. Matt Olson's in a really beautiful position because he's filling the role of a beloved player, Freddie Freeman, who has also recently won the MVP. Matt Olson is coming in and trying to say, hey, I'm just as elite and I can take this team back to the World Series this year and show him who's boss. He's a more well-rounded player and has a lot more going for him than I believe my competitor will say in this debate, but I yield my time now.
Alrighty, Armchair, your opener 2 minutes. You get to go now.
Perfect. I will also like to say that I wasn't here last week because my kiddo was sick, not because I didn't want to be, and I don't know why you wouldn't pick Vladdy. Roman, what are you doing? You're killing me. Anyway, NL MVP. This is interesting for me because there were a couple of people that really stood out to me, and who I ended up settling on was Mr. Juan Soto from the Washington Nationals. Now, I know you're thinking, Armchair, the Nats suck. They're miserable. Like, they're missing basically their entire starting rotation that's of value. Strasburg's out. What is Soto going to do to make that case? How is he going to bring the fire? Key conversation. Matt Olson's got a great team built around him. In fact, I would argue that Ronald Acuna might be a better option in Atlanta. The Freddie Freeman argument is an interesting point because I think that Freddie Freeman is also a potential candidate. But alas, I settled on Juan Soto. And why did I settle on Juan? Because Juan Soto is an elite hitter. Juan Soto is an elite defender. Juan Soto regularly finishes in the top end of MVP voting every single year, regardless of how awful his franchise is. It is not his fault he plays for the Nats, but they still get plenty of airtime. I think that the team around you is going to play a role in this. As we know, the old white cis male baseball writers association are going to have a field day trying to figure out who's the best candidate, but they usually pick someone from a winning team, except last year with Shohei Ohtani, who wasn't on a winning team. And again, we're going to go with Juan Soto. I yield the rest of my time.
Yep, that was actually right on the mark. I don't know if you came prepared or you have the best internal clock of all time. But
Slim, I'm born prepared.
That being said, you guys go ahead and light them up. 15 minutes starts now.
Okay, the first thing I would like to point out is you open with the statement saying, no, why would I pick Juan Soto when he plays for a team that sucks? Obviously, I don't want to put this in there and say that odds are everything, but Juan Soto is currently the favorite for MVP voting in terms of projections and predictions, and has been almost the entirety of the offseason. So regardless of that, everybody already knows that. In terms of him playing for a team that's not good, he's still an X factor. He's one of the best batters in the game. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more detrimental to his argument for him not being on a better team that's surrounded by better players, but that's not necessarily going to be the only factor that holds him back.
I think it's important to note that, well, first off, thank you for making my argument. He is the favorite for a reason. Juan Soto is an excellent player, and I think that his elite eye, his elite defense, he's a two-time Silver Slugger, of course. He's not a perennial All-Star yet, but I think that'll continue this year. He's only a one-time All-Star. Matt Olson's the new guy on the block, and I don't disagree with his quality of play. I think he's an incredible player, and of course that team is stacked. Look, Atlanta's got a great team, and there's no doubt about that, and I think that they're probably favored to win their division. They should be, but when I look at Juan Soto, I say, okay, he's the lone bright spot for an MVP vote on that team, whereas I look at the Bravos and I can go, okay, I can pick 2 or 3 guys from that team and say, you know, why couldn't this be Acuna's year? Who I was leaning towards anyway. I think it just diverts eyeballs, Lily. I think it diverts eyeballs from it's easier to stand out when you're the tallest weed.
Well, the other thing that you're talking about there is you kind of are explaining 2 parts of the argument. You're also bolstering actually part of what I think is a really important thing to note about is, so first of all, you say that it's easier to stand out when you're on a team that's not performing and you're the one really good guy on it. But then you also say that, of course, Matt Olson's going to get more looks because he is on a better team who might actually be qualifying. The Braves still are not favored to go back to the World Series. There's really nothing about the team that was projected to make it that far last year, but they were able to do that based on their performances and things that they were doing. The one thing that I would like to say in terms of Matt Olson and something else you brought up is the fresh face. That is something that MVP voters love. They love when a guy comes into a franchise and is able to make a name for himself and do something that really helps the team progress and become better. You could say with any other year too in other teams that they weren't always the best players then on the team in terms of all of a sudden really making it everything for them. Of course, some years that is true. Of course, you can look at years where, for example, I would say Shohei Ohtani, that really helped the Angels do it, didn't bring them anywhere. But obviously, what he did was a great X factor. The other thing that you pointed out, too, was that in terms of like millennial or favorites and everything in terms of the outcomes, unless you are Mike Trout, the odds really do not help you. There has been no other winner within the past 4 years, where the projected winner has actually won the award. Everybody with the odds, for the most part, it sits around between plus 700 to plus 17,000. And I think it's just important to note that sometimes that fresh face can really make an impact.
The fresh face argument's different for sure because it's only happened 9 times ever. Oh? 9 times ever has an MVP been named after starting on a new team. Do you want to know the last time it happened?
Yeah.
It's Yelly.
Yeah, I know. Christian Yelich in 2018. The Brewers, right?
Yeah. And before that, it was 2015 with Josh Donaldson.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, it was 2004. So you see,
it's not an uncommon phenomenon.
I guess it is an uncommon phenomenon because 93 to 2004 is like, that's a long time. We're not talking like two have happened fairly recently. And to be fair, the Josh Donaldson season's an outlier
No.
In terms of his season, well, it is because he went from hitting bombs in there, and that offense was absolutely stacked. And then Christian Yelich was marooned in Miami, and that's not his fault. And now he went to play for a competent franchise, and people actually got to see him.
Well,
Nobody cares about the Marlins.
I would totally disagree with you on that, though, and say competent franchise. At this point in time, the Brewers were not viewed as that, especially considering how they looked in the NL Central compared to the Cubs and the Cardinals at that point in time. But the other thing is that you were saying there was kind of talking about, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Also, I wanted to say happy birthday.
Thanks.
And good on you for that, because it's really great to debate you on your birthday. But something that I did want to point out too was, again, the phenomenon of that. And when you look at this and you kind of look at the odds, part of the reason why I'm bringing it up is that a lot of these projections and sort of odds and everything that goes in that, it doesn't necessarily make a difference, because last year we had a really odd MVP voting year where neither of those teams were in the postseason in terms of Bryce Harper and Shohei Ohtani. Previous years, we've had somewhat similar things. But again, you were pointing out a really good thing in terms of that most of these players, when they are sort of, there's the X factor usually comes in something else. When it's those players that are on teams that don't make it to the postseason, it's because they do something record breaking and outstanding. And I will say, I don't think that's impossible for Juan Soto. And I'm not saying just because of, the chance that the Braves could go to the postseason again and run for a World Series means that Matt Olson is more likely to win an MVP. But I think when you look at him all around in terms of what he's going to be doing on that team and with those pieces around him, I think he has a better opportunity to be a bigger media name in terms of what's going to be that discussion. What's that talk going to be like as this new first baseman for the Braves?
I get all that. It's just 9 times in the history of baseball is not common.
Okay.
It's not like we're talking. It's not.
Baseball isn't.
It's less common than say a perfect game.
Yeah.
It's less common. It's less common than a lot of other things. I think that Matt Olson's a perfectly capable person to jump out and do it. I think that Juan Soto's better suited to it. We're talking about someone who's shown both the offense and the defense.
Oh, you cannot say his defense is something that's outstanding for him.
He is a 2-time Gold Glover. Of course, he's got a great defense.
Juan Soto?
Matt Olson. No, Matt Olson.
Oh, sorry. I thought. Woo, sorry there.
No, it's okay. Listen, we're not Nelly. We're not Nelly and Roman here. I'm not giving you a relax dagger. Okay, there's none of that going on. No, Matt Olson is a great defender.
Yeah.
He hasn't shown it as much with the stick. Part of that is the fault of the Athletics, who are, let's be honest, the dregs of the league. And I think we need to just hurry up and sell them and move on, because it's not helping anybody. But when you look at Juan Soto, when you look at what he's done, he's had a fairly short career so far, and he's been in the MVP voting since he was a rookie. Rookie of the year, he finished second.
Correct.
Second year, he finished 9th in MVP voting. 9th. I mean, he's due. 5th the next year, 2nd last year.
If you're going to say he's due, you can say the same thing for Matt Olson in terms of what he's been doing. He's hitting that sort of sweet spot in his career at that age where, again, for some reason, we like seeing a lot of MVPs that are around that 27 to 29 range. I don't know what it is, and I don't know the reason for it. But again, you're bringing that up into it. And of course, you can just say that he's due. He's going to be due for the next 10 years. Of course, that's going to always make him a likely favorite. Same with Bryce Harper. Now, same with Shohei Ohtani. It's the same as bringing in somebody like Mike Trout. Something I wanted to say, too, is that I know you noted that, Matt Olson is in some ways not necessarily the same or best hitter in comparison to the two of them. However, he's a way better slugger, hits for more home runs on average every year. And also, in terms of looking at their other batting statistics, Matt Olson, I would say, I think is a little bit more well-rounded. He does not strike out as much as Juan Soto. Juan Soto is in one of the highest percentiles, up in the 90th percentiles for strikeout rate, for whiff rate, and for chase rate. Matt Olson is not high up in any of those categories. I'd say the highest might be strikeout rate at 76 in the 76th percentile. Otherwise, he is really well-rounded in terms of what he's bringing to the plate, from slugging to OPS to OPB. He gets a lot of home runs. He had 39 last year, on pace for 40 again. And again, I think these stats are going to be bolstered and boosted by the fact that he is going to be surrounded by a better team. I don't think that should be the whole thing of the entire argument for him, because I don't think that's fair. But again, his xWOBA is phenomenal, 90th percentile, 95th percentile for max exit velocity, for walks as well. they're both very similar in terms of those regards, but I think with Matt Olson's defense and his 2 golden gloves really amplify him and give him an extra sort of oomph, especially since he's not striking out all the time and he's not chasing it. He's not going for the hero ball. He's being a good teammate and a consistent player.
Speaking of not going for the hero ball, just as a, first off, Juan Soto's played in 300 less games than Matt Olson.
Yes.
So Matt Olson's been around for, I think, a full other season or season and a half, if we count the truncated short season, which we have to, but it's unfortunate because they don't get the games.
Yes.
In terms of career batting average, straight up batting average, old school, I hit the ball more often than I don't. We're talking about a 301 for Juan Soto.
I said that. I said Juan Soto is the better batter in terms of that batting average.
He's got stolen bags. And he walks a ton. So
does Matt Olson. He walks a ton.
He does 100 less times in 300 less career games.
And?
So 373 walks for Juan Soto in 2003 plate appearances versus 272 for Matt Olson in 2,369 plate appearances. It's a much better walk rate. It's a much less of a struggle on the base paths.
But he also played for the Athletics, where they haven't even had when's the last postseason run they had? Was that probably 2019, 2018? No, before that. Regardless, I think, again, the Nationals, I will say, I think that's a really good thing to point to here in terms of them being in similar team projections where, the Nationals haven't been poised for a World Series run. Neither have the A's. But again, I would argue that the A's have been in a worse position in terms of the Nationals have had Trevor Story. They've had Steven Strasburg. They've had Max Scherzer. They've had a lot more pieces in there to kind of give them that X factor that can get them to that point. The A's haven't. Of course, Juan Soto's going to get walked more. That's just going to happen. Matt Olson, he is still getting walked more, but what's he going to do? He's not going to go in to do any double plays. I know one thing I would want to say, too, is that I think is really impressive with Matt Olson. The number of double plays he turned last year, 98. Do you want to know how many errors he committed in 2021 in terms of his fielding? I don't want to go back to that right away, but...
No, it's low, though.
Yeah, he only committed 6, and he's only committed 24 over his whole career.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Again, Juan Soto, I will say, in his positions, he has been in the outfield and right field. In the infield, you do tend to get more errors drawn in terms of that position and what's the number of plays that you're being interacted with in compared to being in the outfield or right field. That's just kind of the luck of the draw, and to a certain extent. That's not to discredit Juan Soto, but you have to acknowledge how many more plays that Matt Olson is going to be interacting with in terms of being a first baseman.
And that speaks to Matt Olson's glove. I don't have an issue with Matt Olson I don't even have an issue with Matt Olson as an all-star. Far be it from me to say that he doesn't have a chance, because I don't think that's the case. I think Matt Olson is a year, maybe 2 away from his MVP run. I know that age-wise, that doesn't necessarily jive. That's closer to the Josh Donaldson era than he'd probably like to think. He went from 21st in MVP voting. He had a year off where he didn't get MVP votes in that short season, and then he went to 9th or 8th. So he made a huge jump, which is a testament to him. But Juan Soto, again, went short jumps. He was in the voting. He was 9, 5, 2. He's right there. He's been top 10 since he's been in the league. And this year, I don't think will be any difference.
I think that it's a very fair argument to make. One thing I actually would like to point out is Roman saying errors is a bad stat. It's a judgment stat. Again, I was kind of explaining that again, Juan Soto doesn't have any errors. I was like, and he didn't last season, but that's why I was saying that it's really hard to compare apples to oranges in terms of their positions and what they're playing. Because defensively, I do just think that in general, Matt Olson is in a position where he has gold gloves and he's going to get a little bit more notoriety for it, where in terms of outfield gold gloves, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Errors as a stat against an infielder should be measured against other infielders.
Yes.
Comparable. It's not, and I did not get the impression that you were saying Matt Olson.
No, I just wanted to clear that up.
Or better. Yeah, of course.
Roman in the chat, because I was like, that's not what was happening. But again, this is something where I want to say, I think these are players where they do have really good shots. I do think that Matt Olson narratively does have a better opportunity to win MVP this year in terms of position that he is here and that he's taking on this team. I think Juan Soto is a phenomenal player, and he's going to be in this discussion for years to come. but he's favored right now. That's not usually a good look for most guys. And of course, I think he's phenomenal and has a lot of good things going on for him now. And I can't wait to see what he does, but we're talking about two really different players there, and I think we both can agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely. How much time have we got left here, Flam? I think that we're like, I don't want to kill Lily's voice.
You're at 20 seconds. We can call it there if you guys want to.
I know this is going a little late. We could always... I mean, do you want to do closings?
Yeah, we can do like a little like quick hitter closing.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you're first.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like expedite this.
No, you know what? We're good. You know that. Okay, listen. The MVP has only been around forever. This is not a brand new thing. And Juan Soto is an excellent ball player. He hits the ball well. He walks incredibly well, so he's got a great eye. His on-base percentage is huge. And when he's on base, he can steal. And that's important. Winning games in this league is important, but it's not the metric for MVP as we've seen before. The Atlanta Braves have a couple of guys who are also going to get MVP votes. I've said Ronald Acuna already. I think that Matt Olson will get MVP votes. But at the end of the day, Juan Soto's trajectory tells you that as long as he continues to do what he's been doing, he's going to win the NL MVP. Thanks for having me on again, guys. Lily, great debate. Appreciate it.
Okay, good to go. Yes, good.
Yeah, okay. Go for it, Lily. You're close.
Sounds good. So again, this is a very great debate in terms of looking at two players who are offering a different sort of firepower for their team. Of course, Juan Soto, he is known for being, one of the best players in the league and the best on that Nationals team. Matt Olson has been in this discussion for years. He has been often talked about as one of the best batters and just all-around players in terms of the defense he offers, his slugging, what all he brings to the table. He brings a lot. It's, again, career he's had, I believe, last season he had a 271 batting average. That is still good. It's not Juan Soto's, but it's phenomenal. He had 39 home runs, 111 RBIs, really great OPS. He gets on base a lot. That argument works for him as well. He's a great fielder and has an X factor with the glove in terms of him having a phenomenal defensive hand and being in a position where you're going to get a lot of looks for that. Of course, he is going to be on a team where Ronald Acuna Jr., when he's healthy, he's going to get a lot of looks, along with other guys there as well. That didn't mean Freddie Freeman didn't get looks for being as good of a player as he was. One thing that I would like to point out again is that we are talking about sort of predictions and odds and things in that regard. The only player who's ever been predicted preseason to win the award or has been ranked among the top ones to win said award has been Mike Trout. He's the only one that's been able to do it. Of course, you're going to have the argument of saying that it's really uncommon for a guy to come to a new team and all of a sudden get the MVP. But it's also uncommon for the person who is projected to win it as well. Matt Olson has this really great fresh face that he's bringing to the Braves. People know who he is. He's established. He's a good player, but he's never had that chance to really shine. He's going to be on the Braves now and get that opportunity to be that player, to be that guy who's fulfilling a role of somebody who is beloved by fans and just baseball fans across the league. He is going to be that next guy. He's going to be that X factor. And when you see him with the NL MVP award in November, don't be surprised. You can expect it to happen.
And that's the 2-minute time going off right there. It's voting time. David just put that link in the old chat, and let's see who won this one. I think this is the closest one of the night, probably. The other ones were very spirited and aggressive, but this one was. Granted, I don't watch a ton of baseball, but this one's tough to call.
No, it probably won't be.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
I appreciate your debating. I still think Vladdy's the AL MVP, by the way.
I actually would have crushed that Boba debate. I really killed it, I'm not going to lie. I almost want to share my notes.
Only half of you fuckers have voted. Come on, people. Oh, no, the host just dropped an F. Gosh, dang it.
Hey, we did that without swearing, Lily.
We got to scrub the recording.
Yay. Mom, what do you mean you can't vote? You click the voting link.
Still giving people a chance to trickle them in here.
Damn, yeah, why aren't y'all voting?
Try refreshing, David. Don't you tell me what to do. I'm no boomer.
Oh, this is rough.
It worked. We're at 9 votes out of the 14, 15 in here. 66% of it is with armchair. I think I'm going to call it there because no one's voted in a hot sec. Armchair. You just handed Willie her first loss ever. History. On Light 'em Up.